The Blues are busy. What's really happening with Chelsea's transfer drama? The January transfer window is heating up, and Chelsea fans are glued to their phones waiting for the next big announcement. Social media is buzzing with rumors, leaked photos, and those classic "here we go" tweets that make our hearts race. But what's actually happening behind the scenes at Stamford Bridge? Today we're diving deep into three massive stories that have Chelsea supporters talking. From a potential €55 million splash on a teenage defender to rejecting a mind-blowing bid from Manchester City, the Blues are making headlines for all the right reasons. Let's separate the facts from the fiction and see what these moves could mean for our beloved club. The Jorrel Hato saga. Is this our next defensive star? Who exactly is Jorrel Hato, and why are Chelsea willing to break the bank for him? If you haven't heard the name before, you're about to become very familiar with it. This 19-year-old Dutch defender has been turning heads across Europe, and Chelsea are leading the race for his signature. Hato plays for Ajax, the famous Dutch club that's produced legends like Johan Cruyff and more recently, players like Frenkie de Jong and Matthijs de Ligt. The teenager can play both centre-back and left-back, which makes him incredibly valuable in today's game. Think about how useful that flexibility could be for a manager like Enzo Maresca who loves to rotate his squad. But here's where things get interesting. While social media is screaming "deal done," the reality is a bit different. Chelsea are definitely interested, and they're ready to pay serious money. We're talking about €55 to €60 million here, which is huge money for someone who's barely out of his teens. Ajax know they have a special player on their hands, and they're not letting him go cheap. The Dutch club wants around €60 million, while Chelsea are hoping to get the deal done for closer to €50 million. It might sound like a small difference, but in football terms, €10 million can make or break a transfer. What makes this deal even more compelling is that Hato reportedly wants the move. When a player tells his current club he wants to leave, it usually speeds things up. Ajax might be holding out for more money, but they also don't want an unhappy player in their dressing room. So why are Chelsea so keen on Hato? Look at our current defensive situation. We've got some great players, but we could always use more depth and quality. Hato's age is perfect too. At 19, he could potentially play for Chelsea for the next 10 to 15 years. That's the kind of long-term thinking that successful clubs need. The big question is whether Chelsea will meet Ajax's asking price. In recent years, the club has shown they're willing to spend big on young talent. Just look at what we paid for players like Enzo Fernandez and Moises Caicedo. If the scouts believe Hato is worth it, expect Chelsea to make it happen. Cole Palmer, the star who's going nowhere. Now let's talk about Cole Palmer, the player who's become absolutely essential to everything Chelsea do on the pitch. Remember when some fans weren't sure about signing him from Manchester City? Those doubts seem pretty silly now, don't they? Palmer has been nothing short of sensational since joining Chelsea. His goals, assists, and overall play have made him one of the first names on the team sheet. So when news broke that Manchester City wanted him back, Chelsea fans had every right to be worried. But here's the beautiful part of this story. Chelsea basically told City to forget about it. Reports suggest City made a massive bid, somewhere around €170 million. That's an absolutely incredible amount of money for any player, let alone someone who's only been at Chelsea for a short time. Chelsea's response was simple but powerful: not interested. The club reportedly said they would only consider talks if City came back with £250 million. That's not a negotiation tactic, that's Chelsea saying Palmer is not for sale at any reasonable price. Why is Palmer so important to Chelsea? Just watch him play for 10 minutes and you'll understand. He creates chances, scores goals, and brings an energy to the team that's infectious. He's exactly the kind of player you build a team around, not the kind you sell for profit. This situation also shows how much Chelsea have learned from past mistakes. Remember when we sold players too early and regretted it later? The club seems determined not to repeat those errors. Palmer is young, talented, and improving all the time. Why would you sell someone like that? The fact that Manchester City want him back so badly also proves Chelsea made the right choice in signing him. City are one of the best teams in the world, and they don't waste time chasing players who aren't special. Their interest in Palmer is basically a stamp of approval for Chelsea's recruitment. For Chelsea fans, this news should be incredibly encouraging. It shows the club is thinking long-term and building something special. Palmer rejecting any potential return to City, if he was even interested, shows he believes in the Chelsea project. Marc Cucurella, contract talks and competition. Marc Cucurella's situation is a bit different from the other two stories, but equally important for Chelsea's future. The Spanish left-back has been a solid performer since joining the club, and now there are talks about his long-term future. Cucurella's journey at Chelsea has been interesting to watch. When he first arrived, some fans weren't completely convinced. But over time, he's proven his worth with consistent performances and his ability to contribute both defensively and going forward. Now, with potential new signings like Hato on the horizon, Cucurella might be looking at increased competition for his position. This isn't necessarily a bad thing. Competition usually brings out the best in players, and having multiple options for each position is what top clubs need. The contract talks are reportedly progressing well, which suggests both the player and the club are happy with the situation. Cucurella seems to enjoy playing for Chelsea, and the club values what he brings to the team. But what happens if Chelsea do sign Hato? Would there be room for both players? Given that Hato can play centre-back as well as left-back, there's definitely potential for both players to feature regularly. Modern football requires deep squads, especially when you're competing in multiple competitions. Cucurella's experience could also be valuable for a young player like Hato. Having someone who's already adapted to the Premier League and Chelsea's style of play could help any new signing settle in more quickly. What this all means for Chelsea's season. Looking at these three stories together, what picture emerges of Chelsea's transfer strategy? It seems like the club is focused on building for both the present and the future. The Hato pursuit shows Chelsea are willing to invest in young talent with huge potential. At 19, he represents the kind of signing that could pay dividends for years to come. If the deal goes through, it would signal that Chelsea are serious about building a squad that can compete at the highest level for the next decade. Keeping Palmer shows the club has learned from past mistakes. Too often in recent years, Chelsea have sold players who went on to achieve great things elsewhere. Palmer's situation proves the club is now more focused on keeping their best talents rather than cashing in too early. The Cucurella contract talk suggests stability in planning. Rather than constantly churning through players, Chelsea seem focused on building a core group who understand the club's culture and style of play. But let's be realistic about the challenges ahead. The Hato deal isn't done yet, and Ajax are tough negotiators. They know how valuable their player is, and they won't accept anything less than top dollar. Chelsea might need to be patient or potentially look at other options. The Palmer situation, while positive, also highlights how attractive Chelsea's players are becoming to other clubs. As the team improves, expect more clubs to come calling for Chelsea's best players. The club will need to stay strong and resist tempting offers. The bigger picture, what fans should expect. So what should Chelsea fans realistically expect from the rest of this transfer window? Based on these stories, it looks like the club is being smart and strategic rather than just throwing money around randomly. The Hato deal could happen, but it might take time. These big money transfers often drag on as clubs negotiate every detail. Don't expect it to be announced tomorrow, but don't be surprised if it happens before the window closes. Palmer staying is huge news that might get overlooked because it's not a new signing. But keeping your best players is just as important as bringing in new ones. Chelsea fans should be thrilled that the club is showing this kind of ambition and planning. The broader message from these transfer stories is clear: Chelsea are building something special. The club is investing in young talent, keeping their best players, and showing the kind of long-term thinking that leads to sustained success. Looking ahead, the road to success. As we watch these transfer stories develop, it's worth remembering that success isn't just about individual signings. It's about building a team that works together, a squad with depth and quality, and a club culture that attracts and keeps the best talents. The Hato pursuit shows Chelsea are thinking about the future. Palmer staying shows they're learning from past mistakes. The Cucurella situation shows they value stability and continuity. Put it all together, and you get a picture of a club that's finally getting its transfer strategy right. Of course, we'll have to wait and see how these stories develop. Transfer windows are unpredictable, and things can change quickly. But based on what we know right now, Chelsea fans have plenty of reasons to be optimistic. The January window might not be finished yet, but already we're seeing signs that Chelsea are building something special. Whether it's keeping stars like Palmer, pursuing exciting young talents like Hato, or securing the futures of solid performers like Cucurella, the club seems to have a clear plan. That's exactly what fans want to see, a Chelsea that knows where it's going and how to get there. The next few weeks will be crucial, but if these stories are anything to go by, the future looks bright at Stamford Bridge. Stay tuned to Chelsea HQ View for all the latest updates as these transfer sagas continue to unfold. The January window always brings surprises, and we'll be here to break down every development that matters to our beloved Blues.